Hey, 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 it's the phenomenal STEMist. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are well. I'm gonna get my video going. Just gonna share this on my main page. Just give me a second. And those of you, remember to like Phenomenal STEMist, guys. Please, there's so much things to like, subscribe. I'm on Instagram. I have my own Facebook page. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll find me on Twitter. Um, I always love to come out and discuss the issues of biology that happen in the day. Yeah, so I'm going to share this real quick to my main page. And sorry, happening now. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning. As you know, there are young men that were arrested. A young man was arrested in his his gown. Okay, his gown. He was arrested in his gown. Hey, no, what's going on, girl? Long time. Um, Let me just introduce myself once again. My name is Dr. Maya Byfield. I have a bachelor's degree in biology, a master's in biomedical sciences, and PhD as well, with concentration molecular pharmacology. I also did a postdoctoral fellowship in neuroscience. That's me, that's my background, and I love to talk about neuroscience. And I was talking with a friend today about how, my friend is actually a police officer, and he was saying that was just such a lapse in judgment by his fellow police officers. Like, it defied common sense. How do you see a guy hooked up with an IV attached to the IV? Your body's attached to the IV. You have a gown on, half buck naked, next to a hospital. How, first of all, how do you, as a security guard, feel the need to call the cops on them? Number two, how do you, as a cop, see the situation and see it for what it is? A common sense, go into the hospital and let the man go home into his bed so that he can recover from his pneumonia. It's common sense, right? It's common sense. Um, Not for a black man in America. Not when you're bombarded with images your whole life that the black man in America is a crook. Let me tell you about the brain. If you want to know about the brain in terms of pictures, you can always go back to my Phenomenal STEMist, my webpage, or my YouTube channel. I have all kinds of different videos with pictures describing what we call the amygdala, the frontal lobe, all those things. So I'm not going to do that today. But those of you who've been watching me for a while know that the brain has four main regions: the cerebrum, the diencephalon, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. And out of the four regions, three out of the four regions are controlling the subconscious mind. The remaining 1/4 of the regions, the cerebrum, is in charge of the conscious mind. And even still, majority of the cerebrum is receiving sensory information and processing it a lot of the times in a subconscious way. It is the frontal lobe that makes rational decisions. This part right here, this part, the prefrontal cortex, that is the part of your brain pretty much that is in control of making rational decisions. If you, number one, don't have a strong frontal lobe, it's very difficult to make rational decisions. But on top of that, you may have a good frontal lobe, but because the remaining portion of your brain is subconscious, if it takes over, meaning if you are in a dangerous situation, if a bear is chasing you in a popka, Anel. So imagine a bear, a bear is chasing you with a popka. Are you going to be solving calculus problems? No, you quickly switch into fight or flight mode. And what you do is you run from the bear. You are in fight or flight mode. Well, how does that happen? There's a fear center called the amygdala that is triggering information, sending messages all over to your brain saying, hey, we're in fight or flight mode. Your brain is actually moving towards fight or flight mode and controlling everything in the context of fight or flight. Your heart starts racing, your fat starts burning, you start breathing heavy. Why? You need to get as much energy to your muscles to get out of that situation or to fight the thing. Okay. When you're not in a dangerous situation, it is imperative that you stay at rest and digest. You have to control those fear centers of your brain, especially your frontal lobe. For instance, some people think an exam is a bear. What happens? You start to sweat. Your heart starts to race. You start to breathe heavy. It's like the exam is attacking you. But in order to do well on exams, you have to tell yourself, this is not danger. I have prepared myself. I have studied hard, and I'm going to do well on this exam. You take your conscious mind and put under subjection your unconscious mind. That's right. Well, an implicit bias, as one of my friends we call it racism. Like we're trying to make it pretty so people feel less bad about themselves. But I agree with her. It's racism. It is when you have been bombarded with imagery your whole life. And whenever you see a black man, I really believe it in society. Whenever you see a black man, even if you are a black person yourself, your amygdala is triggered by that image. And all common sense goes away. All you do is see that black man as a danger. And so if we're showing imagery, media images throughout our childhood, and you know who's the primary culprit? The same media that is castigating the hospital, the cops, whoever. The same media that is saying bad things are the same media that perpetuate this imagery of black men to the point where the sight of black men increases triggers of fear in people. So how is it that security guard didn't exhibit common sense? Implicit bias overpowers common sense. How is it that those cops come see that this idiotic racist security guard is a fool and we should let this man go back to his healing bed? Because implicit bias trumps common sense. You have the subconscious mind overpowering the conscious mind. What do we need? I really believe we need to approach policing from the context of training in neuroscience. They need to understand what's going on in their mind. Because if they understand what's going on in their mind, you remember in Miami where they had those cops shooting at black men images as the practice? Do you know what that's doing to the subconscious mind? So that when you see a black man, immediately you will trigger your gun and shoot him in the head. If you understand neuroscience, you will not create that kind of activity. If you understand neuroscience, you will understand how human beings react to being afraid of you. They naturally run. They naturally resist. They do. Especially ones who've been programmed to be afraid of you. So just as we're programmed to be afraid of the black man, I really believe that that black people in society have been programmed due to experiences to be afraid of law enforcement. So you cannot compare black people's response to law enforcement to white people's response to law enforcement. Our Caucasian brothers view law enforcement as a protector. We view law enforcement majority as a predator. And when you and so the neuroscience in my mind, when I see police officers, my heart races. In somebody else's mind, they feel calm and safe. The presence of them is safety. So when you approach me, you got to approach me differently. You can't make it one-dimensional. Just comply is what they say. I really believe that there needs to be more neurobiology training in law enforcement. They need to have implicit bias tests done. It should be a requirement to become a law enforcement officer. Yeah, Don, belief systems. Belief systems, and not even just what you believe, because belief systems still come here. It's what you see. And when you see it constantly, it is, though that imagery is implanted in your memory base. We call that the hippocampus. And the hippocampus and the amygdala work very much together. So that if I was in a fearful situation in the past, it's implanted in my memory base, the hippocampus. And so if I'm in that situation again, the hippocampus will send a message over to the amygdala, hey, that's familiar. You need to run quick. And so imagine watching news over the childhood, images of black men in handcuffs. Even though the majority of, I talk to my cop friends, and they always say the majority of people that they arrest are not black men. They'll always say that, there are more white men that get arrested, white people that get arrested, based on sheer numbers in theory on sheer numbers, right? But they don't show that imagery in the media. They don't show that imagery in the media. That is implanted in our implicit biases. So listen, how is it that a guy who's hooked up to an IV with his behind out in a hospital gown, very small, petite man too, petite man, very unassuming man, how is he arrested? How is he arrested? Racism trumps common sense, because racism is based on fear. And the amygdala center is difficult to control by the forebrain. It requires awareness and taking responsibility. And so that's why I asked the law enforcement agencies, when are y'all going to take responsibility in the context of the neurobiology of implicit bias? Are you? If you are, let me know. If you were a cop, I have a couple of friends who are cops or in law enforcement. Let me know. Do you get training on implicit bias? Do you get training on how people react from a neurological way? Yeah. All right. Hey guys, mommy, what's going on? Listen, Don, I think we're gonna be on tonight. Is that a shorty. I believe we're going to be on tonight, Wednesday night. That's actually going to be on my normal page. Um, so Wednesday nights we do Wednesday night justice meeting, and I guess we should talk about the fact that it's July 4th, huh? All right, guys. Thank you so much. Please remember to like me on Facebook, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram. Let's work. Let's work on being aware of our implicit biases.